Hello guys and gals, lords and ladies, saints and sinners of every kind. Welcome to Rise of Jerusalem, and I got a haircut. Look at this. I don't look shaggy anymore. Like, if you go back and look at my old thumbnails, I had like a switch haircut like this, and it looked a lot better. And my hair was like starting to so I stopped that and I got a haircut. Anyways, not the topic today. Today I want to talk about something that is interesting. So, do you guys ever know that person who says, I think this is what X means? For example, I think this is what purity means. Wearing a jean skirt and a blouse all the time, 100%, 365 days of the year. Anything above that is immodest. Or people who are like, I don't think it matters what you wear. Go for it. Show off your body. Show you're confident. That's great. No, that's not what I want to. That's what I want to talk about. How that neither of those are good. Okay, so recently I was in a history class, right? History of ideas. So we're studying Nicomachean ethics. If you haven't heard that, where's my copy? Where's my copy? This book, Nicomachean Ethics. Whoop, 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 whoop. Awesome book. It's all about ethics, most specifically, focus, thank you. It's all about ethics in the time period in which Aristotle lived. Aristotle, contrary to Vizzini, is not a moron. If you get that reference, you're an awesome Catholic and probably way too homeschooled. So, this book is a lot about ethics, and a lot of people, when they're talking about this, talk about friendship. And don't worry, we're going to have a whole discussion on friendship. We're going to have stuff on dating and all that stuff soon. It's coming up. Stay tuned. It's going to happen. We're doing it, but we're going to talk about something else in Nicomachean Ethics today, because what he talks about in this, one big topic that we were talking about in class, whoops, I know we dropped it. One big thing we talk about is virtue, right? So virtue is, according to Aristotle, there's a certain list of virtues that are both the moral and intellectual virtues, and he gives these idea of virtues and says, okay, this is a virtue, but you should not go into the excess or deficiency of any said virtue, because that is possible. So, for example, let's say I'm discussing eating food, because I'm really hungry right now. So you're talking about eating food, right? So eating food, if you're eating to deficiency, you're anorexic on this side. If you're eating to excess, you're a glutton. But in the middle right here is called health. And that's going to be, of course, dependent on each person. It's going to have a different level of health, a different level of what their health is. For example, also Aristotle says, well, let's say drinking. You can drink to a certain level, and that's when you should stop, like your points of where your alcohol content should, stop drinking. If you go over that, you're going to be drunk, and that's called drunkenness, and that's a sin. Or a vice, we call it a sin. And on the other end, you have not drinking at all, which you kind of have to drink something. I mean, beer is healthy for you. Alcohol, for some people, is actually healthy for you. For some people, yes, I know. For some people, it's unhealthy. Some people, it's bad. I know that. I'm not dumb. But it's fine to have a beer, right? There's nothing wrong with that, especially for us Catholics. There's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. We drink alcohol a pretty decent bit of the time. I don't know how Catholics have gotten this, almost stereotype of drinking a lot of alcohol, but it's not entirely untrue. Catholics like a good beer. Why? Because beer was made by God, and God, whatever is made by God is good. So, by definition, then beer must be good, but you shouldn't misuse it. This is the exact same way with a lot of ways that people think about our virtues in the church, as opposed to Aristotle's virtues of intellectual or moral virtues. Let's talk about how this applies to the values of the virtues that we talk about. All right, so to explain this, let's talk about what we mentioned in the beginning, modesty. On this side, we have always dressing in skirts and blouses every single day of the year. On this side, we have wearing a bikini to mass. If you've ever done that, go to confession right now. So we have bikini wearing to mass and corduroy skirt and blouse all the time. There is a middle ground for modesty, okay? Because, and we can even relate this to, the secular life, where people are okay, here's wearing a dress all the time and thinking anything other than a dress or skirt is bad. Here's wearing a pantsuit all the time. Same thing. Fill in the blank however you want. But somewhere in the middle is modesty, okay? We can't go to either extreme or an extreme end, which would be an excess or deficiency of any sort of virtue, right? Because with doing that, we are going to have a problem. That problem being something called prudishness, right? You know that person who says that person is prudish. A lot of times that's where people who are oh, well, I think this is the only thing to do, and if you're not, you're sinning. That's not okay, okay? Like, no, just stop. There is a middle ground, and that middle ground is honestly determined by who you are. Like, I don't know what your alcohol limit is. I don't know what my alcohol limit is, because I'm 18, and I've had like one sip of beer, and it was disgusting. Thanks, Mom, I appreciate that. It was a dark beer, don't ask. So, like, there's a limit. There's a limit, there's a difference. On one end, you have drunkenness, on the other hand, you have, I'm not going to drink any alcohol, prudishness, whatever you want to call it. Where's that middle ground for you? Okay, that's going to differ. Some people it's 2 beers. Some people it's a sip of wine. Some people it's 18 shots of tequila. It's going to be a differing area depending on who you are. So what Aristotle is saying in this, and really rings true in our spiritual life, is you have to find a middle ground. And the middle ground is good. And the middle ground is going to differ for some people. Now, I'm not saying that this is a relative, like a moral relativism, but this idea is relative to whoever is doing it. So for example, just like I said, 10 beers for some people, 18 shots of tequila, a sip of communion wine can knock you drunk. There is a difference between what people are going to do. Drunkenness, not drinking at all, different levels. And that different level is where your point is at. And that's in the same with our spiritual life. We don't need to be overly causing ourselves, like saying, oh, well, this is the only thing. Like we should corduroy skirts right here. Always wear them. Always wear skirts and dresses. Nothing else. Anything else is immodest. We always wear veils in mass. And on this side, it's like, I don't see what's wrong with jeans and a ripped t-shirt. It's a mask. I don't. There's a middle ground. Okay, there is a middle ground. This is relative to the person. And I'm not saying this is moral relativism, because it's not. Want a topic on moral relativism? Ching. Clicked right up there. Yeah, look at that timing. So it's not moral relativism. It's this idea of relative to your situation, of your spiritual, not your spiritual, it's kind of your spiritual life. Because, so again, not moral relativism, but it's relative to who you are, depending on what really fits for you. Like for some people, like for your prayer life, this could be different for people who say, I'm going to pray, like right now in my spiritual life, I'm going to pray an Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory be to God. Or I'm going to just pray, you know, in the silence of my heart. I'm just going to listen to God. That could be where they're at. Some other people will be like, I need to pray 5 rosaries a day and do 20 hours of community service. Okay, that's where you're at. Like, there's a difference. And you try to strive to become better in this relation, but there's a spot where everybody's at. Everybody should not be like, all right, everybody, for the rest of this youth group year, we're going to pray 5 rosaries a day, all of you. No, 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 no. That's not how it is. Because we're all at different levels of our spirituality. In the same way, we need to find that middle ground of where we should be pushing ourselves, or we should be going back. Because there is an area where we need to spend a little bit, maybe a little bit less time with God fully and present, and that sounds like heresy, but I'm about to explain, so please don't quote me what I just said. Okay, so basically here's how it works. Here at college, we have an adoration chapel. It's literally like 30 seconds that way. I could go pray to Jesus at 2 in the morning if I felt like it, which I have. Don't judge me. So the adoration chapel, I go to the adoration chapel, I pray, right? That's what you do in the adoration chapel. Duh. So go to the adoration chapel, you pray, you do your stuff. But at the same time, I could spend all day in there, and that could be good for my spirituality, but I also need to spend time with others. Right? There, I need to find that middle ground between praying and working. The Benedictine motto, pray and work. Do both. Middle ground, it's fine. And the Benedictine monks are monks, so you think they kind of have it figured out on how to go. Yeah. So if you guys find that middle ground, figure out like what that is. And if you think that you're on one end of the scale, you know, think about it, pray about it a little bit, and figure out how you can become a little bit better. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. A couple thank yous, though. Right here, you might have seen Lisa Cotter, my good friend Mrs. Cotter. She put out a thing saying how awesome Rise of Jerusalem is. She's, thank you. Arigato. Is that thank you? Tell me down below. Guys, tell me what you want me to talk about at all. Oh, yes. If you want to see a really, really, really epic episode that I was vlogging the Eucharist of Congress in Charlotte, North Carolina. Right there, guys. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. As it was in the beginning, it is now and ever shall be. Rise up and live.